Welcome, everybody, to Animal Genius World. This is a podcast by animals for animals. I am your real and existing host, Nirav, and Annie had a family emergency this week and could not join us, so I have pulled in a veritable expert in all things animal. Rachel, say hello.
Hello.
Rachel's a veterinarian, so she is familiar with facts such as which animals are real and which ones are not. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about dragons. And on this podcast, every other week we sit down to chat about the amazing animal kingdom. So let's everyone climb onto your big thrones on your mountains of gold and relax to discuss the great beasts of the sky. Rachel, let's just kind of start here. What is your background with these magnificent creatures?
Well, I've dabbled.
Okay.
I've had some brief interactions. As you know, that they are famously a bit shy, and the ones that aren't a bit shy tend to be a bit temperamental. So they're not creatures that are easily handleable. Although there have been some interesting developments in the dragon pet trade in the last few years. Yeah.
Is that is this one of those exotic pet trades where it's some rich people in Asia are purchasing them and then they don't know how to take care of them and are releasing them into the wild and kind of destroying the ecosystem?
Well, there's always been that, but there's been some advances in getting some smaller species of dragons to breed, so they've become more available for people to keep in their homes. These are dragons that are, maybe no bigger than your average house cat, maybe slightly bigger than your average house cat.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. And they in addition to getting them to being able to understand what these dragons need to succeed in captivity and increase their numbers, they're understanding more about their husbandry and getting them to eat a commercial diet, what could be a commercially available diet for them. So
right.
you don't have to source chickens and sheep and things like that. You can just go to the store the way you would a dog or cat.
Yeah, and we'll get into the diet later on, but I would imagine it's really hard to secure enough food for such a large creature to eat its own weight every day. Even with a dog, you're not feeding them their own weight in dog food every day.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, let's get into it. So first, let's do our alien TED Talk here. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw this on you, Rachel. If I am an alien who has just landed on Earth, and I've come to you, I'll sit. I'm just shrugging, and I'm pointing at a dragon, and I'm like, what is this? How would you explain to me what this thing is?
Oh, gosh. I'd probably tell you to not touch it and step away from it. Of course, when most people think of dragons, they think of the Western dragon, or maybe even the fairly large wyverns from that popular TV show that we all watched. So, of course, you don't want to get too close to those, right?
You're talking about Merlin, of course.
Of course. You don't want to get too close to those dragons. They are, again, famously temperamental. If they do decide to allow human interaction, it's usually just one particular human that they will tolerate. If you were an alien, I mean, it is, of course, you look at it and you go, oh, large lizard. But I don't think that's the whole story, and that's certainly not the story for even a lot of dragons, because some of them are, more famously serpentine in shape versus
no, it's
lizard.
It's a wide group, and we've talked about animals that like cover like a wide grouping of things before. Like we talked about the anglerfish last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. With the name anglerfish covers like hundreds of species, like that are like you could put them next to each other and not even know they're the same thing. So I think that dragons are a little bit similar. So the alien shrugs, but it does give you a tentative thumbs up and hands you a small box. What do you do?
Open the box, of course.
Yeah,
What's in the box?
It's another box, and you're left to ponder this mystery.
Well, what's in the smaller box?
Doesn't have a way to open. I guess it's like sort of a sealed crate. So
what if you fed that sealed crate to the dragon?
The dragon thanks you for the snack and trades you a sack of gold coins, but one of the coins you notice is not the same as the others, and there is a strange crest on it.
Awesome. That sounds like a good trade, I'll be honest with you.
We'll pick up next week. Actually, this is a good idea. I should have like a recurring... The alien at the Alien TED Talk sort of like progresses this sort of like RPG-esque quest every week. With the animal involved. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about its appearance. So here's the thing. I did look into some reference books, and I found one called the Draconomicon, the Book of Dragons. So this is kind of what I'm using for reference for this, because dragons are hard to study. They're always breathing fire and flying around, so people don't really have like as good of a hold on them. Again, like the anglerfish, weirdly. We talked about last week how anglerfish, we don't have a lot of data on them because they are so deep in the ocean we can't really study them. And if they float up to the surface, they're already dead. And pretty much shortly upon capturing them, they die because of the pressure differences up here. So much the same way we don't have a lot of concrete data about dragons, a lot of scientists will argue like X, Y, or Z thing. But here's kind of what I found in this reference. So... generally, the word dragon actually describes 4 different types of creatures. You have drakes, worms, WYRMS, wyverns, and true dragons. So, to kind of like whittle it down a little bit, I've kind of gotten some examples here. So first, a dragon. So the true dragon, quote unquote, we've talked about this before. We even talked about like true buffalo, Shin Megami buffalo. But a true dragon has 4 legs and a separate pair of wings. So that's pretty much the thing that differentiates them. So that one is a really classic one. Like you can think of Smaug from The Hobbit is kind of the quintessential dragon. Or even like Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. So I think what we should do as a scientist yourself of sorts, like we should sort of like like as we go through this, rate these ideas. Like, so do you think this is a good argument for what constitutes a true dragon?
I want to say yes. I feel like we might run into an issue with, the Western depiction of a dragon and then the Eastern depiction of a dragon, and what is a true dragon, because I feel like we're socialized to think of dragon as the Western version, the 4 limbs with the 2 wings. But I think if maybe we grew up in a different country, we might say no, that a true dragon is the more serpentine form of the dragon.
Yeah, I think it's maybe the name like true dragon like maybe is not as helpful, because like who's decided it's true? Obviously it's Westerners who have like decided this is like the default dragon, It's a very Eurocentric view.
Right.
So next we have a drake. A drake has has 4 legs like a dragon, and it has wings, but it is usually a lot smaller. It may or may not be able to fly, may or may not be able to breathe fire. A good example of that is Mushu from Mulan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those are the ones that are becoming more popular in the pet trade.
Yes. Yeah. Because first of all, like the food situation is very different. I think I saw a chart a long time ago of like a list of like all pets you could have with like how rewarding it is versus how difficult it is to take care of them. And like it's like there's like a ton of animals on there, and then like the far top right corner is a dragon.
I mean, I've also seen that chart, and they are not wrong.
Yeah, that's correct.
Especially if you, are one of the lucky few that actually get to bond with one of the larger species that you can actually ride. I mean, that's got to be
That sounds like
fantastic.
It's like a rich person thing though. They've like completely. Just the you and me, like, we're never gonna have access to a dragon like that in real life.
No,
Like,
I couldn't keep up with the feed.
yeah,
You're talking about 3 or 4 sheep a day. Who has that kind of money?
someone like Anya Taylor-Joy, known dragon owner. Yeah, she's. I don't know why is everyone talking about her face again. Are they just being mean?
Something about the Mario. I think the Mario Galaxy movie is about to come out, and
Yes,
she
it's coming
did
out tomorrow.
some promo on the internet today. And so everyone's talking about that. I think that's it. I honestly haven't had a chance to look into it, but I have seen a lot of people discuss her today.
I heard that she got some sort of like skull surgery to like reduce the distance of her eyes or something like that. I really hope that didn't happen, but because I thought she was very attractive before.
I don't know if that's a thing. I mean, I don't know if that surgery exists. I mean, dragons definitely exist, but
dragons do exist, but that surgery that Anya Taylor-Joy had is fake. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, you basically have to be some sort of like Hollywood elite or like corpo executive to make that work. So then we have a worm, which is a WYRM. That has no legs and no wings, so it's basically a massive snake. However, it is different from a giant serpent just because of its intelligence factor, basically. And it is, so a good example of that is the world serpent Jormungandr, which you might have seen in the God of War games, or the Shenron, the dragon from Dragon Ball Z. Those are both good examples.
Right, and then of course the head is quite different than a serpent's as well. I mean, of course, it has the sort of triangular features, but often these worms have horns or some sort of mane or feathering on the head.
Right.
As well as just the general more bony structure of the worms versus a serpent.
Right, and we'll get into it, but like in a second here with the etymology, but like the word worm in describing a dragon-like or a snake-like dragon actually obviously came from the same root word as WORM, describing a snake-like insect essentially. Is a worm an insect? I've never heard it described that way, but it must be, right?
It is not an insect.
It's not. What is it?
I think it's in the arthropod kingdom.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Hold on.
I'm Googling this now. A worm is not an insect, but they have 6 legs.
Annelids.
Insects have 6 legs and an exoskeleton. So yes, they are annelids.
Okay, yeah, sorry. No, insects are arthropods. They are annelids. It's been, I think, at least 20 years since I had to know that.
Yeah, it's been a minute since my last bio class. Annelids are, okay, so this is like a textbook creature. Segmented worms, ragworms, earthworms, leeches, the whole gang. Okay. So not insects, I guess, but they are bugs. Okay, that's important, because I think one thing that people are having trouble with is that insects are just a group that is within the world of bugs. Like, spiders is bugs. Scorpions is bugs. They are not insects.
I would argue both of those. Those are both bugs. I've never considered an earthworm a bug, because I feel like if you consider an earthworm a bug, then your next step is you're going to tell me a snail is a bug, and snails are not bugs.
I see a poll. For some reason, Google has taken me to a poll conducted on the Entomology Facebook group in March 1st, 2024, that says, "Is worms bugs?" And I think that most people seem to be in agreement that they are not bugs. Actually, spiders is bugs, shrimps is bugs, snails is bugs, is worms bugs. I'm gonna say I like this idea that no, although weirdly I think I agree that a shrimp might be a bug.
I mean, I do agree. Because what is a shrimp but just an underwater bug?
Yeah.
But again, they're at least in the same phylum. They're shrimps. I'm fairly certain are arthropods, same as insects. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. But worms are, you know, they're
They're just like their own gang. I think
their own thing.
They might be their own thing. Okay, so last but not least, we have the wyvern, which has two back legs and the wings of a dragon as its front legs. So you have probably seen these things before. The most well-known example by far is Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon.
Is that the most well-known example?
What do you think?
I mean, I would say Game of Thrones. Is Game of Thrones more popular than How to Train Your Dragon? Which one's more popular?
If you were to ask me that right now today, I would actually say How to Train Your Dragon, but no, you're right.
Also, Toothless has four legs and a wings.
Oh, does he?
Toothless is not a word.
I put him in the wrong category. The Game of Thrones ones for sure, and then also I noted the fell beasts, which are those things that the Nazgul ride in Lord of the Rings. Those definitely are. Because they've got those talons with two legs, but the top of their body is just like these big wings, like web wings.
Yeah.
Okay, I was remembering Toothless wrong. I thought he had that there, but I think you're right. Yeah, because he had to make him a fake wing and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's so sad. I haven't seen that original movie since it came out, but I did see the live action one last year.
Why would you do that?
I had like really mixed feelings about it because it was shot for shot the exact same movie, same script and dialogue, and like I think almost every scene played out exactly the same way, like even in terms of editing. And so I was like, this movie is still very good. It's just like less good than it was before. But like, you know what I mean? I was like, there's like, the only thing I can get mad about is the fact that like I've already seen it, but I haven't. It's a confusing film.
Right.
So it wasn't even like, and Jerry B was even back as himself as the fucking king. So like, what am I complaining about?
Right. I mean, and notably, the movie did have real dragons in it. Like it was pretty remarkable that they got the dragons to cooperate with the filming of the movie.
I'm really glad that they used real dragons because like I was talking to Lindsay about this the other day, but like it's become almost impossible in Hollywood now to like use a real dog for movies that have dogs in them because there are so many strict rules about how much you can film, how the dog has to be treated, etc. that like most directors will consider it like a waste of time. They're like, I can CGI a dog in, and like I don't care about authenticity. Like the CGI dog will do whatever I want. Very famously, that Harrison Ford movie, like Into the Wild or whatever, where he has a dog with him in the jungle, like came out like 2 years ago. That is a CGI dog the entire time, but there's like a man there in real life in like a green screen like motion capture costume who like is edited into a dog. So like the entire time they're filming that movie, Harrison Ford is like, good boy, and he's like petting the head of this real man in a suit.
Oh man. I am now imagining what it must have been like to be that man in the suit being petted by Harrison Ford. Like,
I think good.
You think so?
If Harrison Ford patted me on the head and was like, "You've done a good job," I'd be like, "I did." You did a good job. It's hard. It's hard. You gotta harness that old. Harrison Ford might be the oldest man that there is.
Dick Van Dyke is the oldest man there is.
Is he alive?
He is alive. He's like, I think he just turned 100.
That is crazy. I genuinely thought he had passed away. Okay,
no,
great.
He is alive. I don't know about kicking, but definitely alive.
Okay. That was my next question was like, if I think Harrison Ford is still like active and I would say he is alive and kicking. Is he the oldest man that he seems the oldest while still being able to like move around and do things?
Well, Dick Van Dyke famously can still move around and do things. Like
Okay.
he's still
I
pretty
gotta
active.
I gotta check this. Like Dick Van Dyke right now. Let's see what he looks like. 2026. Is he's just jumped. Oh my god. Yeah, no, there he is. Yeah, he came out to a thing. He got a picture taken here.
He was on The Masked Singer like a year or two ago, maybe.
Oh yeah, he didn't. He did a whole documentary, like auto documentary kind of thing last year. It looks like. Yeah, he's definitely still kicking. Okay, good work, man. Um, okay, so let's get back to dragon. So, let's talk about the etymology of the word dragon. So the word comes from the Old French word dragon. When I say Old French, I'm talking about the language Old French, like Old English. It was a different language. In the early 13th century, which came from the Latin word Draco, which means huge serpent. That came from the Greek word draken, which came from the verb derkomai, which conjugated is into its past perfect form in ancient Greek is edraken. So, derkomai means to see. We don't know exactly why that word, like that word essentially is conjugated to a noun, and that is what has evolved into the word Draco and then dragon. We don't really know exactly why the verb for to see became the thing that was the descriptor. There's a theory that it was because dragons are essentially large snakes, and that snakes notoriously don't appear to blink because they have clear eyelids, which is a trait that they share with dragons. So they have like a second layer of eyelids, you know? So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think that about the to see? Because do you think that's like the main thing about dragons?
You know, it's one of those things that it might have just been the meaning been lost over time. It could very well come from the word to see, because again, they do have this sort of unblinking. You know, if you've ever come face to face with a dragon, you know how terrifying of an experience that is, and of course you're going to be the one that blinks first, because the dragon's not going to blink. They have that that third eyelid that is basically just protecting the eye. So they don't have eyelids like we do. But I also wonder if the to see does not maybe refer to some of the more mystical properties of the dragons, or the mystical properties that people claim dragons have. Is it possible that this word that they put on the dragons was maybe tied to them having some sort of knowledge or wisdom that
Maybe.
human
Yeah.
people don't?
I had a thought that maybe it was because somebody saw one day and was like pointing at it and was like, "Look, I see it," and that was sort of somebody got confused along the way.
Oh yeah, that could be it too.
The word drake comes from the same derivative, and the word worm, W-Y-R-M, is from Old German, again a different language, and was the word they used to describe dragons and regular snakes alike. So they used the same word for both creatures. The Old English form of the word worm was originally used to refer to snakes, but it fell away and eventually came back in modern English to describe worms, our favorite annelids. The word snacka made its way in from Old Norse, from the word snoker, which was their word for snakes and also dragons. And then later into modern English, we reborrowed the word worm to refer to a dragon that looks like a snake, but is not a snake. So weird journey this word has been on. I always find this stuff really fascinating. That's why I like to have this etymology section. The word wyvern comes to us from the Old French word vivre, which is derived from the Latin word viper. So actually, like from the beginning, they were just like, "That's a snake."
I mean, I can definitely see they are long and slender despite their various appendages. So, I think it might be the whole thing about back in ancient Greek, they didn't have the word for blue.
Oh, really?
Well, that whole thing, why in I think it's the Odyssey, it could be the Iliad, it's one of those. They described the sea as wine dark, and I heard that it was because they just didn't have the word for blue. I don't know if that's true or not.
There's so many things that are blue. That's crazy.
Right, like the sky is blue, and you're going to tell me they didn't have a name?
It's literally the first thing you see when you wake up.
Yeah,
I'm going to look this up. Ancient Greek word for blue. They had labeled, often describing it as dark, melas. They lacked a single standard word for blue, so they described it as melas, or used terms for green, gray, or black. The closest specific word was kyanos, which refers to substances like enamel or lapis lazuli. So what did they say about the sky?
I don't know.
Oh, apparently there's some people who argue that the Greeks had some sort of gene that they couldn't see the color blue at all. I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true.
That sounds wrong. Okay.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Rayquaza! Alright, so Rachel, I don't know if you've listened to the show before and were expecting that, or that sort of shocked you a little.
You scared the crap out of me.
Okay. I was hoping that was the case. We do that every episode. So yeah, I've just to break it up in the middle here, we're going to talk about a dragon Pokemon, and I chose Rayquaza. Are you familiar with this one, Rachel?
I am notoriously bad at Pokemon names, but I do know Rayquaza.
Okay. This is important. Does your face blindness extend to Pokemon?
No, I just never bother learning their names, so I just give them like fun names like Fire Pony and Rock Boy.
Okay, that's the opposite of Lindsay, because she refuses to name any of her Pokemon, because then she's like, then I'll never remember their true names. And I was
It's true. I never remember their true names, except a few. There's a few that I know their true names, but the rest, I just have fun little nicknames for.
That's fair. I think both of those things are valid. I personally have always named all my Pokemon, but sometimes it'll just be like, sometimes it'll be like, here's Pony Boy, but then sometimes it'll be like, this is Greg. Reason unknown.
I will give mine really funky names sometimes. There was one time, and I think it was back in the Scarlet Violet days. It might have been Sword and Shield, but I think it was Scarlet Violet. I was a friend of mine who does Pokemon competitively was like, hey, it was like the buffalo or the cow, and like they were mostly one type, but occasionally you can catch one that was like a water type, I think. And he was
I'm not familiar with this.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was like, hey, can you trade me one of, these water types? And I was like, yeah, I got one. I named him Meatflap. And so I traded him Meatflap. And he was like... And
yeah, you can't change the name anymore.
So I traded him, and he's like, I can't use this, because you've named him Meatflap.
Or if he was a little braver, he could definitely use it.
Well, he was afraid that the
you get disqualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were weird about that stuff.
So R.I.P. Meatflap.
Yeah, this one's pour one out for Meatflap. I'll put that in the episode description. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about it. So first of all, if you're wondering like why not Charizard, I don't really know if it's really a dragon, because it is not a dragon type Pokemon. That may sound insane, but it is a fire breathing flying lizard, but it is not a dragon type.
I don't know if that matters. I'll be honest with you. I'm team Charizard's a dragon.
I'm not saying it's not. I was just trying to play it safe so that like I could like do that enlightened centrist thing, and nobody would like get mad at me, because then everyone will like what I say.
I feel like you can like probably get people fighting in the comments about if Charizard's a dragon or not.
Yeah, I'll put that as the poll for this one. We could do polls on Spotify. So yeah, back the fuck up, everybody. Put it in the poll. So I did pick the next best known, I think, dragon, Rayquaza. So this is a dragon flying type, and it's the mascot of Pokemon Emerald. It's the one on the box. It's also an part of the lore of the Hoenn region because it's basically the god of outer space. I thought this was cool. I was doing some fact searching. The Pokemon Company did a poll. I don't know if you remember this of your favorite Pokemon, and they got like 100 and it was more than that. Like, oh god, I think it was like near 1 million votes on like what is your favorite Pokemon, so they could kind of like do official rankings. Rayquaza actually came in as the 8th most popular Pokemon.
Really?
It was also the only legendary that made the top 10.
He's kind of ugly. I'm not gonna lie.
Really, I've always liked him a lot, and I think it's because he's a big dragon from outer space. So Rayquaza's design is based on the Chinese dragon, the traditionally very long kind that we were talking about, and also the lindworm, which is a mythological creature, unlike real dragons. Its role is similar to that of Z's in the Hebrew legends, and it also matches the description of the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, who is that flying serpent that rules the boundary between the earth and the sky. So that would be, where it came from. So the markings on its body are actually from the Nazca lines, which I thought was really cool. It also has, like I said, it's basically based on like Eastern dragons. Do you know about the Nazca lines? It's like these weird. It's those lines that are like in the hills in Peru, that are like drawn on all the. They look like symbols.
Yeah, I did not know what they were called, but I do know of them.
Yeah. So those ones are all over its body essentially, and then, however, this is something interesting. It bears aspects of the Chinese Zhan hermit sage and the East Asian dragons, specifically Japanese ones, who typically have 3 talons on their claws, while Chinese dragons have 4 talons on their claws. I did not know about that distinction before. So it's actually the yellow marking on Rayquaza's head, as well as the overall appearance, is similar to the Greek letter delta, which probably signifies its connection to the like Delta episode DLC that was in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. In the lore of the world, who knows? It's a triangle, whatever. Okay, so back to real dragons. Unless do you have any comments about Rayquaza? What are your general thoughts?
I just think there's better dragons. I mean, he's okay.
Really?
Like the background is cool. The fact that they incorporated all this stuff into his design is cool. But if you're gonna ask me what I think my favorite like dragon type Pokemon is, Dragonite, probably like classic, right? Classic.
I like Dragonite a lot. He simply doesn't look like he's part of the right evolution line. Something happened along the way. There was a miscommunication having Dragonair turn into Dragonite. Like somebody passed somebody the wrong slip of paper at the office.
No, you're right. It should have been like some sort of like blue feathered, maybe some sort of like swan like dragon creature, and then we get this guy who looks I'll be honest with you, he kind of looks like one of the dragons from Dragon Tales, that like old kids show from like the early 2000s.
I definitely can't disagree with you. I think I want to say that we watched a little bit of Dragon Tales. I think that was more my brother was watching, my younger brother, and I caught a little bit. I think it was like a little bit past my time, maybe.
Yeah, it was a little bit past my time too, but it was my younger siblings were watching that.
Right. I have a strong memory of the one character that is 2 dragons that are like Siamese twins or whatever. And that was always horrifying to me, and I wish they would address it.
The Dragapult is another just great dragon.
Dragapult is good. Which one is the apple one? Applin?
Oh yeah.
It's like an apple pie that's a dragon. Great.
Yeah.
No notes. Also Executor, the dragon version of Executor from Alola is very good. I like that. Okay. So getting into kind of the biology and habitats and behavior stuff, like dragons are inherently magical beings, and so I've seen it argued several different places that there's like they should not be considered reptiles under any circumstances, which I think I can agree with. They actually don't share the main trait that reptiles have, which is being cold-blooded. Dragons are warm-blooded. And so I think that pretty much removes them from the group altogether. I saw some scientists noting that they're actually more closely related to felines than reptiles. You can see that in the behavior, like their posture and movement, as well as obviously the warm-blooded thing and the more complex feline eyes. So they're not quite like snake eyes. They're actually much more complex the way that cats are. And also when walking, dragons actually do tend to walk like big cats, which is where they place their rear foot exactly where the front foot was previously. I thought that was an interesting observation. What do you think about this thing about dragons being cats and not reptiles?
It makes a lot of sense to me, honestly, because again, if you look at behavior, and this doesn't go for every cat, of course, but cats have a reputation for being a bit aloof, a bit standoffish. Of course, anybody who's ever owned a cat knows that that's just not the case. You know, cats are very social, they're very interactive, but again, you know, that's because you're that cat's person, and very much like, you know, you being that dragon's person.
That's a good point. Yeah,
versus being a stranger to the dragon.
Yeah, like, so there are also, it's a huge spectrum. Like, my cat, Ellie, you know, she's very friendly. She loves everybody she meets instantly. Very social. Megan, our friend Megan's cat, Birdie, not so much, but basically the opposite. Like, she loves Megan and is very cool around her, but then, like, anyone else comes into that house, like, they basically need to get ready to run for their lives. Like, it's like a horror movie.
Right. Imagine if Birdie was dragon-sized.
I don't like that. I'm going to move on to the next question. So taxonomy. The taxonomy of these things is still argued about, but we've talked about this every week. Scientists are still arguing about the taxonomy classification for every fucking animal that exists. And like 8 years later, no matter what you do, some German guy is going to show up and be like, actually, if you look at the temperature at which the wings expand, it classifies them this way instead. And it's going to like rewrite all over what you did. So, this example is what I could find for a true dragon. Kingdom Animalia, of course. Phylum Chordata, we got backbones. The class Dire, which is for, I think, these large creatures, which encompasses overly large creatures of all kinds, like reptiles, birds, mammals, whatever. Volantes, which I think refers to the flying type of these large creatures. And then family Dracos, genus Draconis, and species Rex. So Draconis Rex being the name of the like the true dragon's like species name, which I think that works. Draconis Rex.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So let's touch in on the biology just a little bit and their diet. So they're omnivorous. And we talked about this before, but like they'll eat almost anything. They can digest basically whatever gets fed to them. Some will prefer a carnivorous diet, but they can kind of subsist either way for a short time. But they'll usually tend to eat more meat, but they can subsist on vegetables for a little while if needed. So this is the big thing. Dragons will usually consume anywhere between half their own weight to their own weight in meat every day. So yeah, when you're talking about an adult, you're talking about 3 or 4 sheep, like that you got to get every day. Like, I mean, think about that. After a week, that you've gone through like 30 sheep.
Yeah. Yeah,
there simply aren't enough sheep.
Yeah, which is why they're so rare in the wild, is because I mean they're apex predators. Right. Well, once they're adults, of course. And it's hard to have a population of prey big enough to sustain a population of dragons, and especially with, in these days where you have all kinds of like habitat destruction and deforestation.
Oh yeah. No, we've talked about that a lot here. Like I will say, like the main thing, like even so when dragons, we'll get in the reproduction here. So like usually they'll lay a brood of eggs. It'll be somewhere between 1 and 10 at max, but usually 3 or 4 of them. This doesn't happen often. The dragons gestate very slowly, and they usually will only lay a litter like maybe once every 100 years. So it's really like it's just again like one thing after another that there's just not a lot of them out there just like wandering around in the wild. So most of them will form a family consisting of a mated pair and their offspring. By the time they reach young adulthood, the children usually will take off on their own. The males and the females will stay together usually for a few years while the babies reach adulthood, and then will likely separate after that, and will find other breeding mates for like future breeding cycles. So, I don't know. They're not quite as good as penguins. Like we all know the thing about penguins where they like mate for life and they stay together. Penguins don't believe in divorce.
Oh, so here's the thing that people get wrong about penguins and about birds in general is that people are like, oh, these birds, they're monogamous, they pair up and then they mate for life, and it's supposed to be very, very romantic. We see it as very romantic, but the truth is that they are socially monogamous. They are not sexually monogamous.
Wow! So they have like an open marriage.
They will cheat on each other. Yes.
Wow. I don't like that. Although I will still say that's better than what dolphins are doing.
Well, that is true. That is true. And I don't know if it's like all the bird species that are monogamous, but I think it's a surprising number of bird species are not, the pure faithful creatures that we like to imagine that they are.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, we like to romanticize that. We also like to romanticize like sea otters. They hold hands when they sleep, so they don't drift away, which we think is very cute because they're best friends. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's about the fact that they have to stay in a herd for survival or they'll die. Mm-hmm. But wouldn't be the first time we've put our own human emotions onto an animal. Okay, so let's get into everyone's least favorite part, Habitat for Humility, which is where we talk about the horrible things that humans have done to whatever animal it is that week. There have been, like a lot of apex predators, hunting and killing a dragon has been like a point of pride throughout history. It is like probably the most like for sport. Now, not saying that the most of them have died that way, but these things don't reproduce very quickly, and frankly, like they are. There is a full-time sport of hunting throughout history for these things, especially back in the older days. Like their heads are trophies on the walls of like these manors and everything, and like all that stuff. And then additionally, dragon eggs. We all know this. Like can. Stay without hatching for up to 100 years. Like, if the dragon inside is fully formed, but if it's sensing that there's danger outside, like it simply won't hatch. And so we have like all these dragon eggs lying around. Who do you think has them? Like, what fucking like conservative politician is hoarding all these things?
I suspect that. They're probably in the treasuries of the very wealthy as trophies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Like, they do the same thing with like dinosaur skeletons and stuff. So why not? Mm-hmm. I just was like angry because like the dragons are pretty endangered right now, and like that could be reversed if these eggs were allowed to be free and so that they could like hatch safely, but. They'll just stay that way, I guess. There's also we should mention, of course, that dragons will hoard wealth. Obviously, they love taking things and they love keeping them and hoarding treasure. So gold, gems, coins, magic items, whatever it is, like they. And really, this is the interesting part: is that whatever it's really dependent on what the dragon perceives as being valuable, right?
Like crows.
Yeah, exactly like that. Like, I mean, gold is inherently okay, gold has been given its value because like we've decided it's a fancy jewel or a fancy stone that we need. Um, for some reasons. I mean, obviously there's other uses for gold like electricity and stuff, but you know what I mean, like silver and whatever. Like we have decided this is a valuable thing because I like how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
so
and
same
also
thing.
it was very the metals are very soft and malleable, and not only was it shiny, but it could easily, because it was so soft and malleable, easily be made into jewelry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, the other big thing that separates dragons from the other ones, so like separates them from the drakes and the wyverns and the worms, is that dragons are generally like have matching or like above human intelligence. And so, you know, of course we can't like talk directly to them, but like they are basically, they have their own like society. And they have their own rules and everything. And so they'll have their own like laws and routines and stuff that they follow consciously and communicate with other dragons. Whereas like the other ones, like, you know, you'll see like these little ones like the drakes and everything are just kind of like, it's like smart like a dolphin is smart.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're I guess we'll kind of wrap up here by talking about the cultural impact. So what is kind of some of the, Rachel, what is some of the cultural impact of dragons we've seen on like literature, movies, like how has this affected us? Like what are we so fascinated by them, because they're in everything.
I feel like they are kind of having a popular moment in pop culture lately.
Yeah.
You know, Game of Thrones ended a few years ago, but I think it ended so poorly that it put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But the House of the Dragon is honestly, I look forward to it.
It's good.
I think it's pretty good, and honestly, we get much more dragon action than we did in Game of Thrones. So, you know, there's that. There is, of course, the Fourth Wing book series is very popular right now, featuring drag. I mean, I read them. I'll be honest with you, the dragons are my favorite part. And they're portrayed in that book as, of course, being highly intelligent, bonding to one person, and even, you know, through that bond being able to communicate and feel things over a long distance. You know, and it's hard to say why they've captured our imagination so much. And, you know, I think you can look in almost every culture around the world and find some depiction of a dragon. But I just think that they're, you know, maybe it's the fact that they are intelligent and they have this sort of like magical, mystical, you know, property to them, because they're shy, they're rare. We don't see very much of them. Combined with, I think we have always kind of had a fascination with flight. Because we ourselves are not able to fly, so maybe it's these like magical creatures that also have abilities that we just don't have, and they are much more powerful than we are as well.
Yeah, no, I think so. And that made me remember a thing I saw a long time ago of like about flight, where like if humans could fly, we would consider it exercise and never do it.
This is true.
Yeah, I agree. But no, I think you're right. It's something about them really captures the imagination, and like I think there's also a romantic notion of like the idea of like being soul bonded to a creature. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The way that like Lindsay is to her dog, Zuzu, who would I think literally rip someone's eyes out before letting them attack her, which is good, but like you can tell sometimes these creatures are like, this is my person, and like I am with you, you know. And like I think that sense of loyalty is the source of all these dog movies too, like Harrison Ford in The Wild.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think it's pretty much like that. So I was curious, like what do you think your favorite like dragon is from pop culture?
Ooh. Man, that is hard. There are so many good ones. But I think I'm going to go with Spyro.
Spyro is a very good one. I actually have a big Spyro figurine collector's edition here on my cabinet here. One of my favorite games ever, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. Check it out. The reignited remake is extremely good. Very faithful, very good remake. Yeah, no, I think that's a great one. I think design-wise, I actually was thinking about like the dragons from the Zelda games, the new ones.
Oh yeah.
Those ones are fucking beautiful. They're the kind of Eastern dragons with like the very long bodies, kind of the feathers and hard scale bodies, but like they have the tiny legs, which I think is very funny.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And also shout out to Mushu from Mulan. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I don't know. What can we? I want to have a sort of a like final thing here. Like, what can we do to help the dragon population, like in the real world? Like, what as an animal handling professional, what would you advise our listeners to do?
I think the best thing that we can do is to not take dragons out of the wild.
Okay. Yeah.
I know that there is some domestication efforts happening. We'll see if that pays off, in the future or not. It's, I think, very similar to, there's been some domestication efforts of foxes, I think, in Russia, but I'm not sure. But again, domestication is a process that takes, hundreds, if not thousands of years to achieve. So really, I think the best thing that we can do is to, if they're in the wild, leave them in the wild. We definitely need to raise awareness about habitat destruction. There is, a big thing about they will tear down the forests, make grazing lands for cattle, and then the dragons eat the cattle, and the farmers are upset. But we just gotta learn to live together.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, this is always the hard part because it's like us here on the ground, like the peasants, like what can we do exactly? And it's like, we have to. We're not the ones who are hurting the dragons this way, but like we can, I think, be good stewards to them as best we can, and just make sure to vote. Vote for people who are going to protect them from, because I know the current big orange clown isn't doing a lot. If I read a news article, like a headline tomorrow that said that Trump had authorized the like open season hunting on dragons, and I'm talking about real life right now, I would not blink.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So anyway, let's do that. So okay, well, thank you Rachel for joining us. As a veterinarian, do you have a last tip for anyone listening vis-a-vis their own pets?
Easter lilies will kill your cat. So it is Easter lily season. So just if you are getting some Easter lilies and you have a cat, maybe don't bring those into your house. And if you get a bouquet, because I know some of the bouquets that you can see at like Kroger and Publix and things like that this time of year will have mixed flowers, and they might have an Easter lily or two mixed in. Just throw those away before you bring it in the house.
That is a real good tip. Okay, good to know. Let's close it out there. Thank you for jumping on, Rachel, especially at the last minute like this. I appreciate it. Where can people find you? Should they try to find you?
Please don't find me.
Okay, there it is. So don't look for me. You cannot find Rachel anywhere, so don't look for her. And you can find me. I guess you know what? I'm done giving out this information for free. If you want to follow me somewhere on the internet, come look for me. You got to earn it. Okay, I actually think that's about all we got today. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week with another real animal, just like we were this week. And I think we were, what was it? You know what, Rachel, what animals do you like? Why don't you pick one for us? Because we were having trouble doing this and figuring out a good way to do it.
The quetzal.
Oh, the Quetzal,
The Quetzal,
that
yeah.
bird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that bird from the Amazon. That would be a good one because that one is also a real. That one seems like it's a fake animal, but is real.
Right. And
Um,
it's really cool because I decided when I was in second grade that I was obsessed with this bird. So it was my favorite animal for a couple years when I was in elementary school, but you can't keep them in captivity. Um
oh,
so they very much like dragons, they just do not do well in captivity. So I think every attempt to keep them in zoos has just not gone well at all. But that's why it is the national animal of Guatemala, because because it symbolizes freedom. Because again, they just do so poorly in captivity.
yeah. That sucks. Well, now I'm sad. We got to end on a high note. Um, uh, some good news right now is that, uh, oh no, I'm looking at the news. It's not good. Is the problem. Okay. Anyway, we will pick up in a few weeks. But thank you guys for listening, and we will see you around. And so, Rachel, our outro. I don't know if you know this. I'm going to set you up for it and see if you can dunk it. So I always say, I'm an animal.
And so is your mom.
All right, good enough. Bye.